So, do you want us to start?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me start then. May I request all the panelists to put on their video? Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. Today we are here for the launch of Samridh Accelerator Program. It is the acceleration program of Zone Startup and Aspire for Her in conjunction with the MeitY Startup Hub. This is a personalized accelerator program for Indian women founders of technology-based startups who are looking to raise seed funding. Zone Startups, a part of the Bombay Stock Exchange, is India's leading incubator, accelerator, and an innovation ecosystem with a legacy of over 8 years. It has nurtured over 550 startups, nearly half of which have been women-led ventures. Entrepreneury is a flourishing community and a part of Aspire for Her and Navya Nanda's Project Naveli. It offers resources, mentorship, connections, investment opportunities, and support to its growing community of over 10,000 women entrepreneurs. The program has a huge plus. It provides a matching fund of up to 40 lakh rupees per startup, enabling startups to easily raise 80 lakhs or more. And in this context, our topic for this panel discussion is fundraising as a woman entrepreneur. India's growth as an economic superpower needs to translate into the development of women's entrepreneurship. It will create a ripple effect on India's GDP and upon job creation. With accelerated efforts, there can be 31.5 million women-owned businesses by 2030 that can create 150 to 170 million jobs. But raising monies from investors, big or small, has always posed to be a problem. This is a global problem and not just confined to our country. To address the topic and related aspects, we have got together experts, respected leaders from the community who have been investors and seen entrepreneurship from close. This is the first time that they have come together to speak on the subject. Today, we have around 45 minutes to discuss the topic and capture their inputs. Before I start, I have a small request for the audience members. Please put yourself on mute. Any queries or questions, please put them in the chat box. If you want to know more about the program, address it to Sanjana or Gaurav. Put your name and email ID down. Any specific questions to the panel members, you could address it to the panel member and put in the chat box. At the end of the session, we will have 15 to 20 minutes for audience Q&A, and I'll pick up your questions from there. So today, our panelists, I'm very honored to invite Rema Subramaniam, co-founder and managing partner, Ankur Capital Fund.
Thanks, Purnima, for the...
May I invite Hemant Gupta, MD and CEO, BSC Samman CSR.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
And Seema Chaturvedi, founder and managing partner, AWE Funds. Hi, Seema.
It helps to be unmuted. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to request each of them, I'll call them by name, to introduce themselves, their organization, and their perspective on this subject. Rema, let's start with you. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Purnima. It's a pleasure to be here. Just want to commend the Aspire for the work that you guys are doing. Hats off to you all for what you all are doing, what you intend achieving. So I'd like to step back from the whole sorry, let me introduce myself. I'm the co-founder and managing partner of Ankur Capital Fund. We are an early stage VC fund which is sector agnostic, but which invests primarily into climate, responsible agriculture, and inclusivity. Those are the three broad themes under which we invest. We have so far done 2 funds, and we have completed investing in them, and we are set to launch our 3rd fund as we speak. Invested in 30 companies across different areas of agriculture, health, education, fintech, climate, and a lot of our investments are in deep science. So they are across 2 broad. One is technology, which is digital technologies, and the other is from deep science. Those are our 2 broad themes. The women entrepreneurship is something that is close to my heart. While as a fund, we are gender neutral, and we ensure that all our processes are gender neutral, and that there is no bias that creeps up in our evaluation, irrespective of the gender of the entrepreneur. So our focus is to be gender neutral. Having said that, at a personal level, the women entrepreneurship, as I said, is very close to my heart. And actually it goes broader than that, which is not just entrepreneurship, but which is women economic empowerment is my larger vision of looking at it. And entrepreneurship is a smaller portion of it. As a society, we need to have more women we need to have women being economically empowered, which could mean whether they are in jobs or whether they are in entrepreneurship. Now, because of the fact of the socio-economic milieu that we have in our country, there is a limitation of how women get into mainstream careers and jobs. Entrepreneurship is a way out for many of them to be economically empowered, and being self-employed provides that opportunity. Now, the entire spectrum of women employment could be from home-based solo entrepreneurships to running large companies such as Kiran Mazumdar Shah or otherwise. So its entire spectrum is there of women entrepreneurs, and we need to recognize the fact that that it's not all one kind of entrepreneur that we are talking of. We as a fund, and what I'm capable of talking, is of a smaller spectrum of these women entrepreneurs who can be funded through venture capital. Now, venture capital is only one form of funding, which is of a particular business model type, which can scale very quickly and which have large markets as well. But what I would like this discussion to be not just venture capital centric. What has happened is the fact that in the last few years, because the VC space has become very sexy, that everybody thinks that we need to get VC funding. Unfortunately, that will not happen because it's a very, very insignificant part of the overall ecosystem that can be funded by VC money. The funding needs for enterprises, and this is being gender neutral or whether women or otherwise, is to be across a full spectrum, right from family to banks to formal funding to other kinds of funding as well, debt funding, equity funding, that would be different parts. And hence we should look at a much broader dialogue on this rather than leave it to just the VC thing. But I would like to stop here, and then I'm sure that there are other questions and we'll come back to how we should address this, what are our expectations. I hope that covers what you'd like. Purnima, would you like me to talk about anything?
No, it's a good start. We'll come back to you with questions. I'll request Hemant to make the introductions, about his company, what he is doing, and what they see as a special focus area.
Sure. Thank you very much, Purnima. So I look The incubator at BSc, which there's a noise, so which is called BIL Veteran Technology Startup Incubator Foundation, but we go by a user-friendly name of Zone Startups India. We've been around for about 9 years now and have had about 550 plus startups go through our portals, both from an incubation point of view and an acceleration point of view. One of our favorite programs, our flagship program, is called Empower, which 2022 is the 7th year that we've been running the program, where we focus on accelerating women entrepreneurs, women-founded startups. And when this particular scheme of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology came out, where they were looking for proposals from incubators to run accelerator programs, it made sense for us to pitch for a women-focused program for two reasons. One is, of course, we have expertise in running such programs, but also because we had Aspire for Her as a partner, and it would enable us to actually amplify the impact we are creating through Aspire for Her. And therefore, we pitched for this particular program, and we got the funding. I'm proud to say that. And like Purnima mentioned, one of the unique things about this program, traditionally, accelerator programs provide program funding, which means they provide funding for running the operations of the program. But in this particular case, I think the government has recognized the fact that funding is becoming an intrinsic part of helping startups grow. And they've added a funding element where they will match funding that the startup is raising up to a limit of 40 lakhs per startup, right? And I'm really, really excited to be a part of this. And I welcome the Aspire for Her team, and they've already done a lot for the program and looking forward to working together with them. Back to you.
Thanks, Hemant. It looks like a really exciting partnership. Entrepreneur, Aspire for Her, and Zone. I think it will be a huge success. I now request Seema Chaturvedi to speak about herself, her fund, and she has a global perspective, so a different kind of perspective too.
Thank you so much, Purnima. And this time I am unmuted, so that's always nice. My name is Seema Chaturvedi. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be on this platform. What you've done, Hemant, and with Entrepreneur and Aspire for Her is very remarkable. And thanks to MeitY for putting this together, much needed platform. I echo a lot of sentiments that Rema shared, mostly because we are in a similar business. I am founder, managing partner of a venture fund called AWE Funds. It's right there in our name. It's called Achieving Women Equity. And so I guess there's some dissimilarities. We are not a gender neutral fund. We are actually very gung-ho about taking the stops out. And we set this fund largely driven by my experiences of having been an investor in my, I joke and say I'm a recovering investment banker and an investor, but also having run a program for promoting entrepreneurship in India. And that program was called Project AIRSV, which was funded by the US State Department for, I guess we got 6 rounds of funding, and it was very delightful to see 575 women entrepreneurs from 20 states in India. And what was remarkable was that all these women came from small tier 2, tier 3 towns. Having lived through that journey and that experience, and I led as founder and chair of that program, the recognition that there was this gross inequity in access to venture capital was staring at me in the face when I would find some of our very deserving women entrepreneurs not get access. And I kind of, being a curious person, I guess I dug deeper and I said, what is it that is driving all of that? And at that point, I'd spent about, let's call it 20 plus years in deep finance. And I had never once thought that gender would be an issue. And I know I sound very naive in saying that, but the blinders did come off through that project, and to which I owe really the genesis of our funds. And the one recognition was that we cannot tiptoe around this issue anymore. We have to pull the stops out in a country where labor participation of women is rather low and declining, made worse by COVID. We need to find ways to engage women in economic value creation. And the whole drive became about the way the way the labor participation trends are happening, not just in India, but even globally post-COVID. We need to add some serious urgency to this matter. And stepping back, as it was like pulling at a little thread of a big yarn, and you keep pulling it, and then it keeps unraveling, and more things become very apparent that you didn't start off with. I mean, our initial position was, let's just help a few women entrepreneurs. And now we are here trying to say, where is that bottleneck? And nobody can convince me that a number like 2% of venture funding going to women is a deal pipeline issue. There is something way bigger than that. And I am not shy to say it anymore. It's gender bias. And you cannot correct a situation which has swung so far off balance by, in my opinion, by kind of not being intentional about it. So what we decided was to set up a fund. It is aspirationally about a 350 crore fund. We want to invest in innovation that will promote gender equity and sustainability. We are strong and happy to talk more about it, but the general sense is we are in a very unique position in human history where we can take advantage of technology as a leveler for many things in that drive equity, but specifically gender equity. And why not we embrace it? And I'll tell you this, from 2015 to 2019, when I ran that program, I'd go blue in my face, for example, and telling these women entrepreneurs to embrace technology. Nothing. 2 months of COVID, let's call it about 40–50% of them had at least started looking around. So we think just from a timing of human history standpoint is a great time to embrace innovation and then use it for good and use it for driving equity. So we are a very, what's called a gender lens investment fund. We are pursuing gender equity, which is the overarching theme. We want to back women entrepreneurs, but we think our calling is a little more than just making 15. So we're looking to invest in 15 odd companies, 15 to 17 companies. And we think that we can use our check writing ability to actually drive serious gender equity through an investment in women ownership, leadership, supply chain, or market making. We invest in 5 sectors. These sectors are very intentional in why we chose them. They lend themselves to our teams networks, and both in India and US specifically, and globally beyond that. And these are also sectors where you can engage women. So these are health, food and ag, sustainability, which is clean, green, circular, and water, and fintech and education. Happy to answer any more questions, but looking forward to this discussion.
Great. Thanks, Seema. I'm going to ask each of the panelists a question, individual questions, and we'll ask each panelist about 2 questions each. And after that, we'll throw it open for audience participation. I see Neha Purohit has raised her hand, but Neha, I request you to put your question in the chat box. We'll be taking questions from the chat box rather than getting people to speak one by one. Okay, so Hemant, here's the first question of our session. Zone has been running its flagship program for over 6 years now. Over 200 women-founded startups have been accelerated by Empower. How has it contributed to their ability to raise funds?
Sure. Thank you, Purnima, for that question. It's a very appropriate question for the forum that we're on. I think 2 things that I would like to point out here. One is that in our experience, the ability of women entrepreneurs to raise funds.
Hemant, can you speak a bit louder, please? I'm not sure if it's only my problem, but your voice is a bit low.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So the 2 things that I wanted to point out from a fundraising perspective based on our Empower experience has been, one, that women tend to be shy when they're asking for funding, especially the quantum of funding that they need to scale up their enterprise. And the second is that in some cases, they feel left out of the community. And they feel that oftentimes they're alone in their journey. So what Empower has done over the last 6–7 years is A, to provide them the peer-to-peer and network support that they need to embolden them to go out and seek funding. And the second is to train them into being able to represent their businesses, represent their business cases more appropriately and more boldly, and therefore be able to ask for the right level of funding that is actually required to scale up their businesses. And we've seen in the course of the last 6 years, we've seen umpteen examples of women who entered the program with a great idea, a great business that they were building, but not sure of what the next step would be for them. And at the exit of the program, having identified what their next steps are, where they want to seek funding. And I wish, Seema, we would have come to you earlier also for being a part of the Empower program. But definitely going forward, we'll reach out to you. But I think in those two ways, Purnima, Empower has emboldened women into seeking the right level of funding that they need for their ventures.
That's great. I hope we have more such programs, more such leadership, and we get more women in the pipeline. So Seema, you spoke with a lot of passion earlier. So as India's leading gender lens fund, what are you seeking to accomplish? And what do you seek from the founders and the entrepreneurs whom you fund?
Purnima, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to call us that, and appreciate that. What do we want to accomplish? We want to accomplish massive systemic change. I mean, that's just a twinkle in our eye. So we've set ourselves a very ambitious goal of helping 30 million women gain agency by 2030. Now, it's a massive number. Nobody's doubting that, but we think we can do it because we have.
Could you repeat the number again, Seema?
Yeah, it's 30 million by 2030. Now, if we end up at 26 million, will I beat myself? Maybe not so hard. I'll be fine.
30 million women entrepreneurs?
No. We want to help 30 million women gain agency by 2030. The word agency is defined in our definition, and it includes an ability to contribute to the country's GDP in the role of an entrepreneur, an employer, employee, leader, supplier, consumer, producer. But fundamentally, the word agency defines a woman's ability to be able to carry her wishes out, not just in an economic manner, but also, for example, have the ability to have enforceability of legal contracts, have the ability to choose when she wants to have a child or marry. And a lot of these are very complex, interlinked topics that we have spent a lot of time thinking about of what it means to have agency. And we've now come up with actually a score which defines these in a quantifiable manner. And so we applied. So stepping back, what is it that we are looking to accomplish? We want to have 30 million women gain agency by 2030, to which it seems it is a big number. It is a big number. And will our first fund accomplish it? Not really. But having lived through the potency of a multiplier effect, through that experience of Project AIRSWE, where that 575 is now close to about 8,000 plus women, we know that we can have the vast net. How do we go about doing this? And what is it that we're seeking from our investors, from our investee companies? We are seeking a manifestation of our impact in three forms. One is clearly making capital available, but because we're holding the pen that writes the check, we are asking our portfolio companies to pull their weight. And we are asking them to pull their weight by having what we call a 10x multiplier. And we say, you go forth, we will support you. You go forth and engage at least a multiple of 10 times the number of women in or through your business, such that they gain agency. And again, every word is actually defined. Further to which we say to them, you will therefore get our full support in making commercial returns. Why? Because in my cynical mind, and boy, am I cynical, this 2% of venture funding going to women is not going to swing by me screaming from the rooftops and saying it's the right thing to do. The only time we can catalyze commercial capital, which is really the bigger capital, much bigger than what governments can provide, is going to be when we deliver commercial returns. To all the ladies, therefore, who are in the call, and even to the gentlemen who are driving this cause of gender equity, the one thing that we want to say loud and proud is we created a portfolio which had gender lens investing as a key criteria, which was ownership, leadership, supply chain, market making. We use that as our gating criteria. We invested in 15 entrepreneurs. We led to an impact that helped women gain agency. And guess what, folks? We delivered a higher commercial return. And that is what is going to make commercial capital sit up and take notice and say, oh, maybe there's something that we're missing out on. And it's that FOMO that kicks in. And that is what's really going to drive more capital coming and swing that 2%, hopefully, to the other side.
Wow, great. I mean, all of us keep our fingers crossed that you get where you want to. Then we all benefit. So my question to Rima is, you have been one of the early Indian venture funds. You've invested both, not being gender specific, you've invested in a lot of entrepreneurs. So what would be your observations vis-a-vis women entrepreneurs seeking funding vis-a-vis men? Is there any difference by gender? Is it all the same?
No, so when you say, do we see any difference? I'm sorry, could you just tell me in terms of what it is?
So when you come to raise money, I think someone mentioned earlier too, when women entrepreneurs want to raise
I got it. So you mean from this, yeah. So, I agree with what Hemant said in the beginning. So let's look at it from different perspectives. Right? One is that we have overall, the top of the funnel is still limited. We need to ensure that we have more women getting into entrepreneurs is one. So that's very clearly, and that's not just entrepreneurship, but also into economic activity. As a country, we have to, as a society, we have to put in more efforts to increase the top of the funnel. That I think is strongly what I see as one, because if I were to, whether we're seeing a lot more women, but it's still a fraction of what's potential. And because of the fact that we only are leveraging the fact of, like what you said earlier, we are losing out on the GDP and other things. So I do think that we have to increase the top of the funnel. That is one. The second is that a lot of women entrepreneurs don't, I completely agree with him, because they don't, and I'm talking specifically of the ones that are VC fundable. Let's see, that's one sub-segment that we are talking about. There's also an interaction that we need to have about the overall scope, and VC funding, as I said, is only a fraction of the funding, the kind of entrepreneurs that we're talking about. But if you take the VC thing, there are a couple of things that stand out. One clearly is the fact that, there is something as old boys network. So if you're not part of the network, it becomes difficult to get funding. So that's one clearly the thing, that a lot of capital networks are still male dominated, and hence that's one thing. The second thing is the fact that the entrepreneurs, like what Hemant had mentioned earlier, that they're not trained, and because of the fact that just from a social economic construct, many of them are not thinking very ambitious. So they tend to hold themselves, and they tend to be more conservative. And the whole VC world looks at it's like someone said, it's not venture capital, but it's adventure capital. So obviously you've got to be more, just the approach itself needs to change. So the fact that women tend to hold themselves back itself becomes a barrier in many cases as well, right? And of course, like what Seema said, there is an underlying unconscious bias and conscious bias that exists, and we have to get over that. That exists, and that exists across the spectrum of whatever we do, whether it's in employment, whether it is in public life, personal life, everywhere there is both a conscious and subconscious one. That's the case. If you take the VCs world particularly, I think one clear that we have to see is the fact women tend to play it safe don't want, many of them, just because of the fact, just from a comfort feeling, we have to get them out of the comfort zone to think large, to think of business opportunity, which is highly scalable. And we now have a bunch of VC-led founders, women founders who have made it big, right from Ghazal Kalra to a whole range of them who have been in the space. So I think we should look at how we can, and that's been our experience too, is a fact. So I have two hats that I have to wear. One is as if I have a fiduciary responsibility, which is like, I have collected money from folks. And like what Seema said, I have to demonstrate at the end of it. And we have a certain criteria, impact, mandate that we have, that we can return the money at, at commercial returns and other things, right? And so I have a time frame in which that I have to do. And so there is a fiduciary responsibility that I have. My other hat is where I work with the ecosystem to promote more women entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurs who can be VC fundable. And what we have seen is the fact that support that women require is still at very early stages. We have to get more support to get more women VC fundable. So we have to start at the top. And once we know that there are business ideas that are scalable, we have to get them that support as well. That's my overall.
Thanks, Reema. I have one more set of questions for each of the panelists before we take audience questions. So I'm going to keep it, I request them to, I'm going to torture the panelists a little bit. Going to, okay, so Seema, you have seen women entrepreneurs reaching out to your fund. What are the 3 specific points of advice would you give them? 1, 2, 3. What would you want them to do if they have to get money from you?
3, that's all I get. Okay, so I'll have to be brief and I'll have to roll things into one. But I want to first, maybe I'll say it in the answer itself. 3 advices, 3 types of advice. 1, surround yourself with a great team. If you are seeking venture funding, we are back in the team because you're too early in the stage for us to look at fancy models, etc. And we'll back the team more than anything else. And it's all about team. I can't say that enough. Second, try to make your ideas very defensible in that you're demonstrating the ability to have protection and a moat around your ideas such that you can accomplish scalability and a profitable exit eventually is what investors want. And third is a big one, de-risk to the extent possible for investors. Even though we are in the venture business, folks, I cannot tell you enough. It is somebody else's money. It's not my money. It's not Reema's money. We have, as she said, we are fiduciary to somebody else's money. And while we want to be giving you risk capital, we are trying our best to de-risk for not just us, but for our investors. And some simple ways to do that. So that's my third bullet. But to do that is please, this seems so commonsensical, but sadly, I don't see it enough, is convey to the investor that you're using the money for what it's intended, in that improve your corporate governance. There is actually studies done that reflect a high valuation for high integrity, transparent businesses with solid corporate governance. There's a premium. As investors, we would much rather pay a premium on somebody that we know we can trust and who's not going to fudge books or mess with what they're reporting versus somebody who shows us fancy numbers and we doubt their ability to be truthful to us. And in terms of de-risking, make the company as process dependent and less person dependent, because then it also builds into the scalability of that company. And focus. Back before this correction, people had told me I was called the R lady because I had dared to mention the word revenue in a time when everybody talked about GMV or gross merchandise value. And I said, okay, but that's not revenue. It's not a bad idea. And it comes very naturally to women. Focus on profits, folks. Ultimately, the best source of capital, as Rema said, you don't even need necessarily venture capital. If you can get revenue and better still profits, that is the best way for you to be a non-diluted entrepreneur and scale your business that way. So it's not a bad idea to look at that in the context of what the speed you want to grow your business in, but also it gives comfort to the responsibility and the discipline that you bring into the table as a team that will execute on the monies that you're receiving from the investor, such that you win and the investor wins by essentially seeing their shareholding in your company scale and grow in value.
Thanks, Seema. I think people should be taking down notes from what she's saying. So if you ever want to go to AW, you know what she's looking for. Okay. So my 3 questions to Hemant. So how is Samrid Accelerator different from the other programs that you run? Just give us top 3 points that come to your mind if you think there are 3 differentiating points.
Sure, I will try. So the first, I think the first differentiating point is what I mentioned at the beginning, which is that this is not just an accelerator program, it's also a funding program. So if you are eligible, if you are having an investor that's willing to write a check for you, the government of India is willing to match that investment up to 40 lakhs per startup. Okay. The second is that this program is focused on, so it's focused on women-founded technology-based startups, right? So you have to have an idea which has an underpinning of technology driving the innovation. And therefore, you have to be solving a problem that exists, but also a problem that people are willing to pay for to get it solved for them. It's not just enough for you to be solving a problem, but people have to be able to pay for it. And the third is that I think having Entreprenari as a partner in this program, right, I think it's going to hugely increase the impact that we will create with this program. I think those are the 3 top of mind that, yeah.
Thank you, Hemant. Seema spoke about what she would be looking at in a startup. But as someone who has raised 2 huge funds and a year third one too, what are the specific traits that you would look for in an entrepreneur, a founder? It could be male, it could be female. So the enterprise is one part, but at an early stage, you also see the personality of the founder. What are these 3 traits that you would look for or be looking for before showing interest or getting further interested in the enterprise?
Yeah. And I would again say is the fact that this is with relation to VC funding, and then maybe I can make a general comment about other entrepreneurs, but let me start with VC funding. So one, obviously, is your willingness to take risk. So the topmost thing that I would say is the fact that for a VC funding, and because of the fact that we are looking at a cross section of the audience who may come with different types of entrepreneurships, that what we are looking at is people who can take risk, who have fire in the belly to grow significantly. So we're looking at disproportionate growth. So that's one clear thing. And there's an addition to whatever Seema said. So it's not it's a replacement for what you are, but it's an addition to it. Your ability as an entrepreneur to build a team is one thing. The other is the risks that you can take. As a VC fund, we also look for innovation, and innovation has to be core. This has to be part of what we're doing. So because innovation is the one that can help you scale, and that scale has to come in from technology, like what Hemant says, alluded to. So for us, the technology scale comes in from the ability of the entrepreneur to look at to scale. And so that would be their ambition to scale would be the other one that we look at. So in addition to what Seema said about the team, that I will add risk-taking ability, innovation, the ambition to scale very, very significantly. And what we do see is the fact, and it's while the women entrepreneurs have a lot more in terms of the risk-taking ability. And that comes a lot from our social backgrounds as well, our conditioning over a period of time. But the other part that I think we miss out on, and across the whole spectrum, is the fact that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of stuff that has already happened. Try, if you are really looking to scale, you should look at what others have learned. Don't try to always say is the fact, I will do it better and succeed. So the ability to see is the fact, how quickly can I learn from what others have done, what others have succeeded in, what others have failed in. So the ability to learn from others is something that we feel is lacking in many of the people who come to. And the other thing that is lacking is also the willingness to do the homework, the domain expertise that's required. There is a significant amount of domain expertise that's required for many of the businesses that we are looking at. 80-90% of the businesses are existing businesses. There's nothing new. I mean, whether you call it as e-commerce or whether it is, it's just that you've had it in different formats. You would call somebody, your neighborhood guy, and he would deliver the samosas to you within 10 minutes flat, right? And it's always existed. What Swiggy existed. It's just that a technology layer has been built in. So most of the businesses exist in its fundamental form. So you have to be able to think through what it works, what has worked, what has not worked, what is the innovation that you're creating. Don't try to reinvent what you say. So that domain, and in some areas, the domain expertise becomes very, very important. If you're taking, for example, agriculture, agri-tech, you can't be sitting in Bombay and talking about price trade that is happening somewhere else, right? On the paper, it sounds very fantastic to say the farmer gets 5 rupees, I am paying 50 rupees, so there is 95 rupees, that's 45 rupees available, I am going to build a great business. Trust me, you will fail because of the fact you don't know the basics of that business, because there are so many complexities involved. So that ability to do that homework is the other thing that is missing. So I would say it's a fact to be an entrepreneur, that what Seema said, I would add risk-taking ability, innovation, the business model, the fundamental business things has to be there in that person. The ambition to scale, those are things that are fundamental core to what we look for in the entrepreneurs. And on the side of where we see a lot of gaps is that people try to reinvent the wheel. They don't do the homework or look at what is existing models to see what can I learn from it, what do I have to do. I shouldn't be. I should start from a particular segment rather than having to go to zero at every time.
And can I just add, even though I'm out of turn, but can I tell you all, ladies, find a mentor / somebody you can speak with. I will tell you the number of times I've called Rema and Ritu saying, I need some advice. Can you? So even at this stage, I'm always looking for advice. So it's always nice to be able to go to some expert like Rema and get her views on something. So it always helps to have that support system.
And all of us do it all the time. And there's nothing about why should VC funds are not new in India, right? I have had right from Praveen Bhai to, we would have met so many folks, because basically you just learn from what others have done. And sometimes we look back and, I'm happy to accept this. There are times where we have said, no, we think this will work. When others have said, look, boss, this will not work. And when we look back, we realize how stupid we were to think that we would crack something that didn't work, right? It's like, for example, there was one core thing, and I wouldn't be ashamed to accept this in this group, is the fact we thought that even as a VC fund, we could fund businesses which are not highly scalable, but which are medium-term businesses, and we could still be able to make money on that. But I can tell you that doesn't work. Not with a VC construct. Then I would have to be a bank. I would need to have a different structure. So those are things that I think that People have done things, they've learned from it. There's no point in trying to, I mean, yes, but if you have to change something, then there has to be fundamentally something innovative about you're trying to do. We can't say, I will do it better. That doing better is perhaps not the right way to approach. You have to see how we can disrupt the whole thing and learn. Like what Seema said, I don't think so. Talking to as many people, and I think that's where Seema, Madhura, Madhuri are all people that I look up to because of their ability to network, and this is really fun. It's really great.
So
Thank you,
Purnima,
Rima. I hope everybody is listening. These are very wise words indeed. I have 4 questions here, and we are not going to have the audience speaking with the panelists directly. If you have any point, please put it in the chat box, or it becomes very difficult to moderate. That's the way we started. That's the way we are going to go. The first question is for you, Seema. And I think this is it's a question that amplifies what a lot of people want to ask. This is from Neha Chandra Wait. She says, I'm Neha Chandra from Task Tracker. We are pre-revenue with over 4,000 users on our platform. Should we apply now, or do we have to wait to generate substantial revenue?
Well, for our fund specifically, we do not consider pre-revenue companies. We need to see revenue. We think revenue is a great form of customer validation. But having said that, there are VC funds that are ideation stage funds also. And so the one point you should all do is do your homework in terms of knowing which VC fund, because within VC fund also there's different kinds of stages within the VC world as well. So in our case, unless you have a very strong and defensible intellectual property that is patent protected, and we know that that'll become your moat, and you will have the ability to have that runway to scale and earn revenue, you won't be the right fund for the right company for our fund, which is not to say that there are not enough other funds that might look at you. So you just need to research and see what their investment thesis is and find such kind of funds.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Purnima, can I butt in for a minute?
I have about 4 questions. You can.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask one question here, which is, I think, meant for the entrepreneurs who are here. I think they're asking more about the Samrid program. Can they apply for Samrid if they're pre-revenue? I think that's the question they're asking. So probably Hemant should answer that question, is what I just wanted to say.
sure, Madhura, thanks for that. I would apply for the Samridh program if you're pre-revenue, but like Seema said, it has to be one of the objectives of the program. Remember, is that you have to be able to raise funds by the end of the program. So it has to be an idea where seed or angel funds will be not necessarily venture funds, but seed funds should be able to look at you and say, yes, that is an idea I want to invest in. And then if you think, and one of the implicit things that Rima and Seema have talked about in their what a founder should be is also passion. I think that you have to have passion for what you're doing. And if you think you're passionate enough and you can take your idea to great scales, please feel free to apply.
Great. Just to add on that, Hemant, I think Vandana asked, she wanted to know more about crowdfunding and angels and others also options like entrepreneurs who have maybe raised money from angels, or can they get money from angels or to crowdfunding and then also apply to Samrid?
Oh, yes. So there is nothing in the program guidelines that says that if you received funding earlier, that you cannot apply for the program. I don't think should be professionally funded or VC funded, but you can have family and friends, you can have angel funds that have invested in you. Yes. And there is a deadline for applying for the program. Gaurav, what's the deadline for the program?
Is there a link as well?
Yes, so 26th is the deadline, 26th of August. I've also put up the details on in the chat, which is the program webpage. So have a look, everyone.
Yeah, I've been watching. There are a lot of questions with relation to the program. Gaurav and Sanjana have captured all the email IDs and those questions, and they will be responding to them one-on-one because some of the questions are unique to the person who is asking it. Also, the link has been put up earlier. Sanjana, I would request you to put the link up again from time to time, so in case people have missed it earlier, they can see it over there.
Can you put it up again? Because
yes.
Yeah, it's put up again. Sorry, thanks. Yeah.
Yes, please. Great. Okay. So, Rima, there's a question which I think is little more philosophical. Is it necessary that all startups need to get VC money? I mean, how else would you advise them to get money?
See, fundamentally, VC is, as I said, is a very, very small part of overall business capital that's required. You could have different kinds of capital. Even a person who's running, let's say, a local kitchen or being a tailor, home-based tailor, is an entrepreneur of sorts, right? So it could be your own capital. It could be capital that you get from your friends and family. Is two clear things that you have. Unfortunately, the capital that's available for the SME space is still very, very limited, and that's across gender, right? I mean, yeah, women face other challenges as well, but overall, the SME space between friends and family and formal funding, you only have one kind of funding, which is the bank funding, which is applied. Within that, there is one which is without strings, but it's difficult to get. But trust me, it's worth for you to go on that route. And especially if you're a women entrepreneur, a lot of public sector banks will give you funding up to 2 crores. You may on the face of it feel that, oh, public sector, it's a difficult one, but it's worth the effort of going through that. Okay. 2 crores is not a small sum. And I think it has been increased to 5 crores. I don't know the exact number as we speak today, but it's worth for you. VC money is not going to be easy for you to get. So for many entrepreneurs who are not looking at the VC model, you will just, if your model does not suit yourself for VCs, then you will just be frustrated because you will be sending it to VCs and you will not get a positive response. So definitely, if your model is something that is more of saying, I will grow to be a capital, VCs are looking for businesses which can be $1 billion and above, that you have the ability to reach them, right? I mean, that's philosophically what we are looking at, which means a business which can grow to 8,000 crores as we speak today. Now, if that's not what you're looking at, I think you should look at different kinds of capital. Debt capital, you're looking at, there is today revenue-based funding. There are funds, there are companies that look at giving you debt, which you can leverage to get other kinds of debt. You should look at the CGTM SME scheme. You should specifically look for, in various states, state governments have funds which are specific for women entrepreneurs, right? And I believe, and Madhura, you should perhaps look at that as well. Like, talking to a lot of the state governments themselves are looking to see how they can build that entrepreneurship pool. So try to see how we could build something for women entrepreneurs within that. Now, this would be capital that would be limited. It's obviously not going to be $100 million, but that's something that we should try and build it. And this is across the gender, but specifically for women, it needs to be there because many of those businesses would need that kind of thing. But that's a missing middle in this country, which is that if you don't have friends and family who are rich enough and you're not coming from a business community and your business model is not venture capital like, it's just difficult to get funding. Now, there are a few of these that are coming up and we should see how we could strengthen those. Revenue-based financing is one. the CGT MSME scheme is another, state government schemes are the other one that we should look at. And angel networks, because many of the angel networks would look at individuals within the angel networks could be funders to you as well. So I would put these four on top.
There is so much of Gyan coming across today. I wish when I started my business, I had someone speak to me like this. This is like a crash course, a capsule of Gyan, if I may say so. So before we end, I want to call Gaurav Prakash. Gaurav is driving this program from Zone. Gaurav, you can speak a little about the program, but address 2 points which even Lalita Shivprasad and some others have brought up. One of them is, if there are male co-founders, can they apply? So you can share about what do you mean by women founders or women co-founders. Okay, the second thing is the government money equity? Is it a grant? Will the government take a stake in the business? Will they monitor the growth of the company? So if you could just give a sense of that, maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, then we are within our deadline and we can close by thanking everybody there.
Wonderful. Thanks, Purnima. So the first question about the definition of a woman founder, we've kept it simple. You can have male founders, but the cumulative shareholding of women founders should be greater than 33%. It should be really, in the real sense, woman-led, woman or women-led. And preferably, a woman should be at the helm, which would mean a CEO or a COO. So that is how we've kind of defined. The second question was about the structure. MeitY Startup Hub under the scheme is clear. They will provide matching funding of up to 40 lakhs and will go ahead with the same structure that the other investor, the co-investor, has kind of okayed or accepted, which has to be equity. It is not a grant. It could be equity. It could be, I would say, a hybrid, but they would follow the same structure. And most of the details are available on the web page. We're going to have multiple sessions from here on till 26th of August, which is the deadline, and would request you all to tune in and also keep asking questions on the email IDs which have been provided. Thanks, Purnima.
I think this is great. I would request everyone to follow the social media handles so you know when these sessions are happening. It's all been posted in the chat group. And if anyone has any specific queries, you can reach out to Sanjana and Priya Mohandas from Aspire for her. They are live managing all the questions. Madhura is here from some weird time zone in the US. So it's good you're here in Madhura. Okay. And I think, there are a lot of questions people have. I hope I've been able to capture. I think the panel has done a fantastic job in addressing all the questions and, even preempting some of the doubts and questions that people have. Like I said, this is a capsule of knowledge, but please follow this, apply within the deadline. There is going to be fantastic neutral jury members who are going to evaluate the applications. Even if you're not selected, you'll become part of the entrepreneurial network and you can really benefit from the network, the connections, the mentors, the partnerships. So I think it's a great start to the program. So I request you all to please go ahead. I see Ruchi also from Zone. Hi, Ruchi. Great to have you over here. I think from our side, we are done. Madhura, if you want to see closing remarks, we can do that and we can end this session.
Thank you so much, Purnima. Yes, it is really early in the morning here, but it is so lovely. It's a fantastic beginning to my day. This is the first ever joint program that we are doing with Zone Startups. So very proud to have you as partners, Hemant and Gaurav. And Rima, Seema, this is the first time that you're coming together in a discussion format like this, but both of you are mentors at Aspire for Her. And you know, in the interest of everyone listening in, all our mentors are very eager to talk to all our community members. So you can reach out to Rima and Seema by writing to us at mentoring@aspireforher.org and reach out to them for their valuable golden nuggets of advice, even if it's not on this platform here. And the one person that I would really, really like to thank is Purnima Shenoy. Purnima has been part of Aspire for Her's journey from the very beginning, even before we were born. And today, to see this program coming to life is something that she has been truly passionate about, guiding us every step of the way. So thank you so much to all the wonderful teams at Aspire for Her and Zone, which have put in a lot of hard work to make this day a reality. And of course, thank you very much, Purnima, and everyone else for listening in. I think the entrepreneurial community, the Zone community, the Zen community, as we call it, will be very much enriched by this fantastic funding program with the MeitY Startup Hub. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody. We are keeping to our time. Please note.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Good job.
panelists, once
Thanks.
again.
Bye.
Thank you, Rima, Seema, Hemant. You guys are fabulous.
Thank you for